What's happening, my beautiful people? My name is Mike LaBelle. Welcome back to the playbook. If you're new in these parts, it is free to subscribe. Today, we simply have the best skill move in all of FC24. From the simplicity to the execution, the versatility, the explosiveness. Hands down, if you learn one skill, this should be on your agenda. High priority. As per usual, we start out in the arena. I cannot stress this enough. Always and forever. And if you haven't guessed it, we're talking about the step over. If you have questions, please ask away. I'd like to start out with the speed boost because you have to be able to do this. And the easiest way to learn the step over with getting that natural boost of pace, clear cut, crispy, you're going to complete a step over in the direction you are already moving and then hit the sprint button. Watch closely. Forward step over, there's a sprint. Understood? So we're not changing direction. You see the change of direction there? You don't get the same movement. Right there. Bam. And he's out. And this is what you're going up against every weekend. And you might be asking, why is this guy beating me for pace? It's because it gives you a pace advantage. And you might be questioning your defense, but at the end of the day, step over forward and a sprint, and you're going to get a speed burst, and it equates to finishing. Now, that's not all. Before we get into all the examples as we do, you must be able to do step overs in different directions. And I would always recommend, if you can't do step overs and move by 90 degrees, you need to be able to do this in all different facets of the game. You've got diagonals, you've got the 90 degrees going back and forth, all different angles. Understood? And in order to have different exit directions, as you're doing the step over, you use the left analog stick, and that will allow you to change where your player is going to finish the skill move. Understood? Are we on the same page? They're not complicated, at least not when you first start using the step over, but it gets much more complex as the game goes on. As a rule of thumb, the simple skills are always what you're going to be looking for. The single express, we talked about it. I showcased it in the arena. Let's look at it in action. It's coming in hot fire. Ginola. There you have it. Perfect positioning if you want to utilize the step over speed advantage. You have a defensive midfielder tracking you, but he's not going to be able to catch up once you attack that gap. And I bring up the gap because you might not notice or realize that it's been created. These players, not manually controlled. Therefore, I've got a bread and butter scenario. It's good recognition here. And then you attack that pace. Boom, gone. One and done. And it allows Ginola to create a gap of space, and he is never caught up. They don't recover. This is why I said it's not your defending that's poor. Caught you on a bad player switch, and then you took advantage of the speed boost. Look at that. Beautiful. Same motion, same direction that he was already facing, already moving. So that is a step over in that direction, and then you're hitting sprint, and then converting with Ginola. We have more. Mbappe, through ball. Ginola, cutting inside. We're going to see a couple of these in action. So right off the rip, it's all about assessing what the defense is giving you in terms of players, who's chasing where, and no one's really open yet. If you're analyzing these matchups, but you do have a 1v1 in space to work with. And what's important with having all this space, look at these gaps. It makes it where you're less predictable. Are you going to attack the end line or the sideline? Are you going to go back to the middle of the pitch? Tex here uses a ball roll to reassert himself and then goes into the step over, because from this position, and even more so with the player switch, he knows that he's got another gap that he can work with. There's a lot to like here. If you're an ambitious player, the C's have opened up here. You've got Ginola. If you've already cut inside the gap, it's a large gap, which means you're going to run into that gap, or at least Tex is going to run into that gap. There you have it, one. And then you get the player switch. Did you notice that? This swap player means he's no longer being controlled, and it also tells you where you might need to attack and what's likely going to happen. And then the response, a little ball roll, and then I think we need one more step over for the people. You get a big burst. Player switch does not matter. You're in a 1v1 situation, and because you've created this small margin, and it's not a big margin, but that small margin, not only do you get a shot attempt, you can eye up the goalkeeper, which is so important at the competitive level. Even if you're playing foot champs at a high level, are you going to go near post or across the body? You need that half second to look up, and you gain that type of competitive advantage via these little skills, little touches, little intricacies. Near post, oh, in full speed. I love this sequence. Ginola ready to cook inside. There's one. There's the player switch, another, and the finish. Gorgeous. I'm rebranding. I'm framing this to 90 degrees, not 98 degrees. For you guys that remember the boy band era, you've got Mbappe. He's starting to cook into space here. You see something allows you to be a little more creative. Not only do you have the manual switch here with Modric, it just tells you that you can fake towards him and have a bit of a change of direction. And the idea is to get into this gap. That is a good gap. So how are you going to get there? This is where you turn after a step over using the left analog stick to have a different exit direction. And And typically the rule is 90 degrees to 90 degrees will get you a better animation, whether that's diagonal to diagonal or perpendicular to perpendicular. I hope you paid attention in geometry, because that will all make a lot of sense if you did. Look at him set it up right here. You saw the step over. He's now going to take this space. So the step over fakes as if he's going this way, and then it allows the player to take this space, and it goes straight into a trivela. Lovely setup. Oh, and look at the animation. Good save from Van der Sar. But this is a lovely way to go into the attack zone. And if you don't know what an attack zone is, and I've talked about this a decent amount throughout previous videos, I highly suggest you go check those out. Zone 1 is going to be in this area. If anything you want to highlight, this is a dangerous area. You're trying to always get there. Allows you to split the gaps. And the same can be said on the other side. If you can get yourself, I know there's a lot on screen here, but if you can get yourself into this zone, you can split defenders. You can beat holding midfielders. You can have people on your hip. And then Mbappe, ball roll adds into it. Doesn't get the finish, but I get the idea of the setup and the value of being able to move 90 degrees into 90 degrees. Skill moves are always about being deceptive. Set them up. Little scramble. Not talking about eggs. Mike, can we do multiple step overs? I thought you'd never ask. Calling this the multiplier. And the reason that you would want to do multiple step overs, because you do lose a little bit of that boost. Want to put that in the video. The same with changing direction. If you go diagonals or you're going perpendicular, you pull it back. You don't get that same extra emphasis that we showcased with the single express or that forward step over. That does not mean they don't have value. So Mbappe, 1, 2, 3, and then changes direction. But what that does for you as a player, you can assess who is being controlled. Are any of these defenders or midfielders moving? It buys me a half second of time. And if you know what to do at that time, then you understand, well, what space do I actually want to progress in? What pass is open? Where are my players? Am I developing what's happening when it's happening properly? We talk about this with an FC. The same applied to previous FIFA installments. Timing is everything. You want to play at your speed. If you can dictate the pace of a game, you will be at a competitive advantage every single time. Doesn't mean you'll win 100% of the games, but at least you'll be playing to the best of your abilities. You're maximizing your skill set. Mbappe takes that space. Here you go. Bit of almost a foul there, and then scoots it around the goalkeeper. That's so smooth. Real sexy finish. If you're looking at the La Croqueta, where you can halfway cancel out of the La Croqueta. If you didn't know that, if you utilize the La Croqueta, you can pass or shoot as it is being executed. So it gives you, I'd say, another half second of a release here. And we see it done with finishing, often done with passing in the midfield. Oh, lovely. Again, from the beginning, the value of the double step over or multiples. Here you go. These are short clips. I like to watch them back in full speed. Mbappe, there you go. 3 of those things. Gets just around the curvature there of Virgil van Dijk and walks it around the goalkeeper. It's easy on the eyes. What can I say? Speaking of, this is yours truly in action. I've got Doku, and I'm going to take advantage of the end line. Remember, because the double or the triple or the quadruple, when it comes down to step overs, does not give you that same boost of pace, you can play these fine angles to your advantage. And I always look for the sideline and the end line to be my best friend. I'm drawing corner kicks, penalty kicks, or throw-ins. None of these scenarios are necessarily bad for me. I'll take them. I was just trying to freeze this man. I thought that he might have been in a position to not allow either of these pass across options. I have to create a little bit of a larger gap if I want to convert to either of these players, which makes sense. It's a bit of a line there. I got a brick wall problem. Couple step overs for the people, slight turn. Now the game opens up, and I'm thinking, okay, option 1 might be a little bit too fine lined with the likes of the goalkeeper. Option 2, I'd have to go in the air, and then it's a matter of, can I beat Courtois? Is he going to come out for it? Option 3, though, is looking bread and butter, wide open biscuits. And again, the space is there, which means the layoff is there, and you can just tap it home. Exactly what happens. Doku, appreciate you. Finish. Those count the same. We've got more. Why wouldn't we have that? Here we go. Kareem the Dream. I'm looking at this scenario and saying, okay, my opposition is defending. That means I got to beat the AI. I wanted to go for a couple just in case something shifted. Maybe I could play some sort of 1-2 game. There's a lot of interchangeability between attackers, and I try to keep my opposition guessing. And that's where the mix-up of step overs matters. Whether you're changing with a diagonal angle, you're going forward, you're looking for the speed boost. It's all about how you deliver the setups, especially at high levels. I might sound like a broken record, but it's important. So I give the guy an early step over. I go for the double. We get the player switch. And because I've got that manual switch now, I'm thinking, cool. I'm thinking to myself, I can turn this corner. I've already started going a little bit out wide. Now I just got to swoop it back in, and I should provide or set myself up with a new angle, which will either, one, give me an opportunity to go ahead and challenge this goalkeeper, or one of my attacking options. In this case, we have three. If I let the play develop, or if I buy more time, potentially they get into a more dangerous location. We're all about picking out and assessing what's best for us, what's best suited for mediocre Cloud FC. Benzema, there's the corner turn. I could probably lay this off if I want to. We've got an easy step into space. You can see what I'm talking about. I'm spitting facts. And you have a gap. I can even dribble into that gap. The choice is yours. Choices gives us advantage, leverage, advantage, negotiations. Yes, sir, indeed. Kareem the Dream, we go for a little bit of the fancy extracurricular ball roll in the finish. But I'm just saying, if you watch this back, after we turn the corner with Kareem Benzema, right here, I now have opened up 3 different ways to score. With Kareem, we can take the space. If not, I've got a layoff to Garrincha. If not, and I believe that might be Musiala stepping into space. Could be a Gabby Jesus. But either way, I have 3 viable options to score goals, which means my opponent has to guess something, trying to take away something. Either way, I'm in a beautiful scenario, and I cannot stress this enough. Look at that gap of space right in the middle of the pitch, inside the box. If anything, all of the same players are likely to meet in the same position. I call it how I see it. That gap's been opened up, and we're going to take full advantage. Crispy. And last but not least, I'm calling this the 1v1 carryover, but you can get a 2-for-1, and this is good business. Son, I'm talking Sonaldo. Arsenal fans, close your ears or get in the comment section. I already noticed the goalkeeper's off his line a little bit. Good situation. If I speed forward here, I could potentially beat this 1v1 matchup, but I still got a couple other defenders chasing back. I'm thinking to myself, if I can use the defender's momentum against him, because he is recovering full speed this way, and I turn him, I can do a step over, diagonally exit, and I'll have a chance to beat the goalkeeper, whether it's a secondary ball roll or another sprint, or potentially the goalkeeper goes down. Because remember, he's already kind of in no man's land here. He's getting brought out. You've got to chase back at the same time. We're dealing with multifaceted goalkeeper movement while having a defensive exposure or a defensive program, which is relatively normal. We come across this on a frequent basis, so what are we going to do? Step over inside, goalkeeper's out, and we tap it home. I love the goal. I love the goal. I love the goal, not just because I scored it, but because I feel like my reading the game was on point here. Overplay, execute, and convert. In any sort of 1v1 scenario, step overs with the quick exit will work against a goalkeeper. Amongst other strategies, the ball roll works. Sometimes you can just left stick dribble it around the goalkeeper. I use the heel to heel, the la croqueta. You got options. I'm just saying. The point that I'm making, this skill is a must-have, even if you fought against it, because to a certain degree, it's so meta. I almost feel the community sometimes doesn't want to incorporate or include it in their gameplay. But if you'd like to get more wins, if you want to take advantage of what the game is giving you, you must learn to use the step over. I'm not saying you have to abuse it, but it has to at least be in your arsenal. If you're not using step overs every single game, to some degree, you're missing out on your potential. I'm just keeping this all the way transparent, a little bit funky. If you're new here to these streets, feel free to subscribe. We have a lot more content coming out ASAP.